Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Boyle. I am the VP of Operations here at A3 Brands, and I'm very, very excited today and to be talking to you about our revenue-based SEO program. This is the latest iteration of our SEO service that we revamped and launched to all our clients starting on January 1st of this year. So very new, only been in market just over a month now, and we've had a tremendous amount of feedback coming from dealer principals, general managers, sales managers, marketing managers, you name it, about not only the effectiveness of the program, but the reporting done, the user-centric focus and the data of the reporting as well. And we thought, what better way to kind of spread the awareness of this program by launching a webinar today. So that's what we'll be talking about is our patent pending revenue-based SEO program. And without further ado, I will dive right in. A couple areas we'll be focusing on today, starting with an introduction to revenue-based SEO, really what is it and how it can help your dealership. Moving into why traditional SEO methods are falling short. We'll then move into how to measure ROI with SEO, specifically then the key strategies we implement to boost that revenue through SEO, and then finally some case studies of some successful clients we've seen across the country. But before that, a little bit of background about us. We are A3 Brands. We are an automotive SEO company. We have always been an automotive SEO company, and we always will be an automotive SEO company. And that's really true to the core of why this business was launched. Myself, Ryan, and my father, Tim, started this company about 5 years ago after we realized the enormous opportunity or lack of a specific successful service of SEO that was being provided to dealers. And what I mean by that is more often than not, you see SEO provided as a bolt-on service, whether that's from a website provider, a paid media provider, an agency of record, and oftentimes it's diluted and shrouded by some other maybe larger spend campaigns, such as an SEM campaign or some referral campaigns. And oftentimes, when you have someone trying to do two things at once, neither one is done overly well. So we really found a great opportunity here just to focus on SEO because no one was doing it and really no one was doing it particularly well. I come from an SEO background at its core. I started in the automotive realm where I cut my teeth. I then moved on to handling large enterprise websites from the likes of Pfizer and Gilead to EY, sites with millions of users a month. But found the biggest opportunity to not only try and test things, but to drive impact came at the local level. And there was such a void, as I mentioned, within the automotive industry of an effective SEO vendor. And my father comes from the dealership background more generally, from management to sales to BDC. And, holistically, we've created a great product that brings in a bulk of automotive experience, but also a bulk of SEO experience. So that's a little bit kind of about where we came from. There's 20 years of experience on our leadership team within the automotive industry. Since our inception, we've delivered over 175,000 SEO leads. And we have experience across 15 different manufacturers. And what I would also say there is a lot of experience across a diversity of dealership groups and sizes as well. That's everything from a single point store in northern New York to Lithia dealerships within within Nevada, the greater Nevada area and California. So a lot of experience on a variety of dealership scale and sizes, and obviously a number of OEMs, both domestic and abroad. And when I talk about what we do specifically, can really be boiled down into 5 different areas. A focus on accurately measuring conversions at every stage of the customer journey, standardizing reporting across all your marketing campaigns, maximizing ROI with smarter SEO strategy, making data-driven decisions with confidence, and future-proofing your analytics setup for the long haul. But what really is a core part of this is our conversion tagging and the following of the Automotive Standards Council as a playbook, not only for us to provide continuity across our clients, but for you as well. So there's a third-party resource for you to understand, how we're going about setting up our conversions in the sense that, we're not just making them up or ourselves, or we're not proprietary data on our own. We're trying to leverage a third-party standard in the Automotive Standards Council to set up our conversion tracking to report accurately, to give you the highest quality data, and to ensure that all 5 steps that I just mentioned below are as transparent and efficient for you as possible. So, section number 1, what is revenue-based SEO? So at its core, revenue-based SEO is really the focus on prioritizing, driving organic leads to the website in the context of traditional or more known SEO practices. We employ things like content strategy, technical strategy, branding strategies, all with the focus of driving leads to the website. And then we report on that effectively each month as well. And to the right, you can see at a very high level, essentially what we're trying to communicate to you. Obviously, I'll show you later on in this report, the detail of the reporting and what we go into in each category is much more granular than what we're looking at here. But at a high level, you're spending X amount of dollars with us for an SEO service, say it's $3,500 a month. We're delivering 215 leads from SEO, which at a very high level gives you $16.27 on average as a cost per lead. Now, A, that's nice because I should say A, because you can look at that in the context of traffic as well, where in the past, SEO campaigns will typically stand on traffic and keyword metrics, and really either leads or conversions fall to the wayside or don't get reported on at all. So really now we want you to look at the effectiveness from a lead and then a cost per lead perspective. We want you to look at traffic in the context of that specifically. And why it matters is, as opposed to me giving you an arbitrary traffic number each month, you're able to really now drill down and say, hey, I'm spending X amount of dollars on SEO each month. This is what it's giving me and why in terms of a value. And even more so, when you get to that cost per lead number, it really allows you to better compare the effectiveness of this media channel, SEO specifically, with other media campaigns you're running, whether that be traditional SEM, social, email, or other web campaigns where you're more often than not going to very granularly understand what your CPL is for all of those campaigns, where traditionally with SEO, you don't. So now where SEO used to be this mystified in a void a little bit, a traffic void, now you're having a solid metric on a cost per lead, a return on your investment of the campaign, and we're able to accurately measure that across some of your other media spend as well. And when I talk about key differentiators of revenue-based SEO, there's 3 areas I want to focus on. The first one is the emphasis on ROI. Leads will always be our North Star. Traffic, impression share, keyword rank are all important, but they're all within the context of leads, which then gives you the best view on your ROI of your SEO spend. The integration with sales funnels as well. We really break down exactly where your website leads are being tracked so you can understand specifically what's coming into your CRM. I'll get into it later in this presentation, but we do a very, very thorough job of not only setting up custom conversions throughout your website if needed, but if they're already existing, we're consistently testing and monitoring them, ultimately fixing them if there is a gap there. But we will map out every point on your website that can be and is tagged as a lead, the information it's collecting and where it lives, so that you can essentially reverse engineer that within your CRM and say, okay, this is where all our sales form submissions are tagged. These are where all our parts form submissions are tagged. This is what these guys are reporting on from an SEO perspective and the Google Analytics perspective. Where is it getting pulled through into the CRM? We don't want to have a gap there. If we're saying there's 100 leads coming in from SEO, we want to make sure that number is pulled through into the CRM. So if there is a gap there, it allows us and you to understand what we can do to close that gap. And lastly, just the data-driven and customer-centric approach to what we do, and mainly in the form of reporting. We are not giving you general keyword reports. We are not giving you data dumps of enormous amount of data that really doesn't mean anything to your bottom line. We have a very efficient and partitioned report that focuses on leads, overall website traffic, page level engagement, and then keywords. But what we'll do is we'll set up a certain amount of keywords that we agree upon with you prior to launching our campaign that we have found effective to track from a search volume and a conversion opportunity perspective and we'll continue to monitor the position, the impression share, and the click traffic of those keywords. So ultimately, that report is all stands upon data. There's no conjecture there. And the goal is that, we're more than willing to review it with you on a monthly basis, but with time as crunched as it already is for you, that report should be very actionable, should be very easy to digest, and should give you the best picture and understanding of how far your dollars are going from an SEO perspective. Alrighty. Section 2, why traditional SEO methods are falling short. The first one is the focus on vanity metrics. And you'll hear me mention this a number of times today, but traditional SEO often prioritizes traffic and keywords without any consideration of their impact on revenue. And what I mean by that is you'll find SEO vendors that will shout from the rooftops about ranking #1 for X, Y, and Z keywords with little insight into the amount of conversion potential or conversion value that they're adding. So while it may sound nice to say we're ranking first for keywords A, B, and C, they really doesn't mean much to you if they're not within the context of the leads that they're providing. The second one is the lack of alignment on business objectives. What we see often is SEO campaigns are siloed. They have limited integration into our broader marketing and sales strategies, and that results in failed efforts to target high value audiences or align with revenue targets. More often than not, you see this come to light in the way that SEM and SEO play together. For example, if we're operating in a silo and we're performing very well for keywords A, B, and C, while your paid media campaigns are also allocating a majority of their spend on campaigns A, B, and C, it's essentially using those dollars for naught. They could be leveraged across other keywords where we're not already holding a lot of organic position with. So just traditionally, the way that SEO operates can be in a silo, and when that happens, it leads to inefficiencies across some other media campaigns as well. And then lastly is the neglect of the user intent and the buyer journey. And I'll harp on this a few times today as well, but really the modern consumer is expecting a personalized, relevant, and intent-driven experience. And a lot of SEO campaigns stop short after driving traffic. They're not really focused on optimizing leads or generating sales once users are on the site, because traditionally it's thought of, we're driving users to the site. Once the users are there, that's your job to really close them, or the website provider's job to close them with an efficient website. But what we'll get into is, the way that organic success and then visibility is often rewarded by Google has a lot to do with the interactions that users take once they're already on their site, on your site. Are they clicking things? Are they scrolling? Are they submitting forms? You see that in a lack of efficient CTAs or landing pages or thoughtful placements of forms. So really, these are the three main problems we've seen with traditional SEO: is that focus on vanity metrics, lack of alignment with business objectives, and the overall neglect of user intent and buyer journey. Some other reasons why some of those old ways are struggling to work now. Again, this is more of a deep dive into the last point I mentioned, but the search algorithms are really prioritizing user experience above and beyond. Again, that's starting once the user is already on the website itself. We do see a lot of increased competition in content-heavy markets. That's going to be large geographic areas with high concentrations of dealerships. It is not enough anymore just to produce an enormous amount of content or to acquire a large amount of backlinks to try to move the needle from a visibility perspective. That on-site experience has to be efficient and has to be successful in order to get overarching SEO success. And really, it's shifting consumer behavior expectations. And what we try to do at our core is remove as much thinking from the buyer journey or the user journey as possible. And what I mean by that is, say we land them on a specific model page and they read through that content, we do not want them thinking, oh, what should I do next? We should be prompting, and we do prompt every which way that they can move through the funnel from that standpoint. Whether it's, okay, I'm looking at an MDX, I want to compare it against Model X. Let's make sure, what we'll do is we'll link specific comparison content within that landing page as well. Let me see some of the actual models that are on this dealership's lot from an inventory perspective. We'll make sure there's easy ways for them to convert into that part of the journey. I wonder what my car is worth and if I can afford this car that I'm looking at. Value my trade. Those CTAs will be effectively placed in the content itself. So trying to remove as much thinking from the consumer as possible during their journey is going to allow for a more harmonized journey. And those are going to send a lot of strong metrics back to the search engines that, hey, you've rewarded us with high positions for this content. Not only are we driving users to the site with them, but they're spending time on site, they're navigating deeper, they're submitting their information, they're overall better engaging with that content. So it's really a holistic experience of driving traffic to the site and then ensuring that traffic is then efficient once it gets to the site as well. How we actually measure ROI with SEO. What I specifically want to talk about is the importance of ROI tracking. And I have, why it's critical on the left and then some common challenges we face on the right. But first and foremost, it allows you or dealers to really understand the full value of your SEO campaigns, where we're shifting the focus away from traffic and to leads. Okay, this program didn't drive me X amount of traffic. It drove me this amount of leads, and I know I sold this amount of cars each month. It's trying to get or tie SEO back to as much of sales volume as we possibly can. It'll also give you a better understanding of a holistic understanding, I should say, of the efficiencies of your marketing channels. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, where you're going to have a really good idea of how far your spend is going from a lead perspective on traditional paid categories. That hasn't always been the case with SEO. So giving you a not only a number of leads, but then a cost per lead value on that campaign, it's going to allow you a much better opportunity to compare more easily the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns. Kind of from the same theme here, it really helps you demystify SEO. I'm not hiding behind an algorithm update or that there are things in the search landscape out of my control that are moving the needle on X, Y, and Z. We cut through a lot of that. We provide that information in our reporting, so it's relevant in case you need the context. But you paid us X, we're delivering Y in terms of leads. It's as simple as that. Far too often in the past, SEO vendors, salesmen can be thought of as a little bit of snake charmers because of this. They'll use as many different smoke screens to hide scrutiny as possible. That's not the case with the ROI tracking. Again, it's as cut and dry as A and B. You spent this, we delivered this lead to this many leads to your website. And then it allows you to hold us more accountable. Again, I'm not giving you something that you feel like you need to dig into with your entire marketing team. You know specifically how far your dollars went and how effective they were. It allows you to communicate and understand the value of your SEO campaign more effectively. And just some common challenges we see too. We do have to set up custom conversion tagging in Google Tag Manager. So there is a level of access and then installation that can be needed if there is no conversion tagging set up already. Or we do go through and test and ultimately fix any errors that are happening with any GTM tags once the campaign begins. Sometimes we can see a lack of cohesion with the website CRM and BDC. And what I meant by that earlier was, because we're reporting X amount of leads are being tagged with Google Analytics, sometimes we don't always see that number pulled through into the CRM or BDC. So there is a little bit of investigation that's needed on our end and your end to understand where that gap's coming from and how we can close it. Other vendors always provide variables for SEO. It typically falls in the paid search and website buckets where, are we overspending on keywords that we don't need to? Or maybe and we're cannibalizing our organic results, or is our website maybe presenting a number of technical difficulties which are limiting or greatly hindering search engines from crawling our website, which then ultimately can hinder the visibility and overall visibility rewarding that the website gets from Google. And then lastly is time. The best way we try to encapsulate SEO is your typical paid media campaigns are like a checking account. For SEM, you're spending X, you're getting Y. You are paying to play. Where in SEO, it's more of your 401k, where it takes increased investment over time, and those investments build equity and compound on each other with more and more time. Not to say that it's going to take 2 to 3 years to get to a successful SEO campaign, but that focus and dedication to consistently monitoring, improving, producing content on your website does pay dividends the longer and longer that it's done for. So there is an element of time that's needed to effectively run an SEO campaign and get it up to speed. So a couple metrics that matter: leads, location, and traffic. You're going to hear me say leads too many times during this presentation, but I'm talking about specific qualifying events within Google Analytics. Again, we're using the Automotive Standards Council to guide our conversion tagging setup. And when we talk about low funnel leads that we're reporting on that ultimately contribute to a cost per lead, we're talking about things like general form submissions, but also sales, parts, service form submissions, chat form submissions, as well as phone calls. Again, they're going to be the lowest form of funnel where you're getting personal identifiable information from the user on a service or a vehicle that they would like to purchase. The second one is location, and that's going to be the demographic breakdown of leads within Google Analytics. With an emphasis on controlling your immediate markets. Are we getting a solid amount of leads from them or from those immediate surrounding areas, or do we have work to do? And it's kind of the second and third areas has been the most illuminating for a lot of our newer dealers, where understanding how big your customer radius is, A, and how far regional customers will travel to your dealership, B. We launched a program at a dealership in Reno, Nevada, and unbeknownst to them, after digging into the data for about 3 months, they have a majority of their lead and overall traffic to the website that comes from the Bay Area, San Jose, California specifically. That's 5 hours away from the dealership, and they had no idea that was the core of their customer base from an organic perspective prior to our campaign launching. And what we were able to kind of identify was users were looking for four-wheel drive Palisade models. Again, this was a Hyundai dealership that they couldn't find in the Bay Area. They were only getting two-wheel drive options there. So the closest market that provided the greatest density of four-wheel drive Palisades was 5 hours away in Reno. The dealership had no idea that they were getting that much lead traffic coming in from the Bay Area alone. So trying to illuminate those, not only so you can understand them from an SEO perspective, but that it can also inspire and galvanize ways to get creative with other media campaigns, maybe to target locations that you haven't targeted before. So location is really critical in some of the metrics that we report on as well. Then lastly is traffic. Again, all things traffic related, including visibility. This is going to be data such as organic sessions and new users, Google Search Console data that's going to show impression shares and clicks, keyword ranking data, specifically how visible the website is, and then traffic engagement data. How long are users spending on the site? What is the exit rate for certain pages? What is the depth that they're navigating into the site? What pages are they spending time on? And so on and so forth. But central to the theme I've discussed all day today is traffic is in the context of leads. So again, if traffic goes up but leads go down, traffic really is actually giving us a negative indicator of the program that we're running, where if traffic is going down but leads are going up, it can actually be a positive indicator that we've honed in on a more focused and higher intent audience that's going to be more likely to convert once they're on the website. But all of these three are incredibly important. All of them work together, but they can be thought of here in a order of priority, where it's leads number one, where those leads are coming from, and then the ultimate traffic that is resulting in those leads. So when we talk about measuring ROI, there's three buckets of tools that we like to focus on. The first one are going to be analytics tools. So that's going to be things such as Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Google Tag Manager. I'll also even throw in the Automotive Standards Council, that logo in the middle, that helps guide the tag setups within Google Tag Manager. Excuse me, but that's where all of our traffic and conversion data is going to live, in those three tools. The second most important are third-party SEO vendors, things such as Ahrefs, SEMrush, and BrightEdge. This is going to allow us to do keyword research. It's going to allow us to understand where we're ranking well and not ranking well to a lot of our competitors. B, it's going to allow us to track rank for certain keywords that we find high value and highly convertible, which again also feeds into ancillary parts of our reporting that again ultimately ladder up into the effectiveness of the traffic and the leads that we're receiving. And then ultimately it can be BDCs or CRMs in the background, whether it's a Dealer Socket, a Vin Solutions, or a Dominion. But again, ensuring that ultimately the leads that are passed through to the BDC and the CRM match the amount of leads that are being tracked and tagged within some of the analytics tools as well. Something I really wanted to go deep on that I highlighted earlier is the way that we both set up, but then test key events or conversion events within Google Analytics 4. So this is a screenshot just of some ASC, the Automotive Standards Council, GA4 specific events that they recommend dealerships to implement and track. And you can see or really understand if it's following the ASC tracking and naming convention, if it begins with ASC. So you can see those event names. Below that, you have ASC underscore page view, CTA interaction, so on and so forth. And really, what we do is go in and actually test the metrics ourselves. We have a very fleshed out and a very, very bright analytics team to ensure A, that they're firing appropriately, and then B, pulling through correctly into our analytics platforms as well. So I wanted to show you an example here, actually something where we found an error recently, but just an overview of what our form submission test looks like, where you can see starting from the top left-hand corner, we have a CTA there called Send Us a Message, which then leads the user to click into one of 5 different categories: sales, service, finance, parts, or general. It then prompts the form to appear, and then ultimately they have the opportunity to submit that form. And we're able to test every part of that journey of ultimately converting, which you can see we've indicated on the right. Starting from the very bottom at 7:41, we have CTA interaction. That is them clicking send us a message. It then took 39 seconds for them to understand which category they wanted to click into, which was the general admin. You can see that. Then they looked at that form for another, I'm sorry, once you clicked on general admin, then it facilitated or provided the form that you see in the middle of the screen. Once they started filling in that form, it triggered the ASC form engagement, which you can see on the right-hand side as the second event that fired. And then ultimately, once they clicked submit, it was actually submitting for 2 separate form submissions, both a general form submission and a sales form submission. So we were actually, or this was before we started our campaign here, they were double counting their form submissions across 2 different categories when one form was submitted. So we were able to dedupe that, obviously adjust some of the tags so the form was being recorded correctly. But this is just a microcosm of what we'll do for every single event across every single, or I say event and conversion synonymously. Every single event and/or conversion that's tagged on your website, not only from initial setup, but then as we're ongoing and reporting to you on a monthly basis, we're constantly monitoring and testing these conversions to ensure A, they're firing correctly, and B, they're accurate. So you're getting the most valid data that you possibly can. And then this is just another example of how we can break this out in Google Analytics. We visualize this to you in a more easier way to see in our monthly reporting. But not to get too granular, if you look all the way to the category on the right, we have the event filtered here for ASC form submission. You can see for this dealership over this given time, there was 215 organics forms submitted, but what's nice is when you follow this ASC naming convention and it's done cleanly, you can see directly how that form compares to other campaigns you're running. So how many direct users submitted forms, how many referral users submitted forms, paid search, and so on and so forth. So not only trying to do the most effective way of communicating the effectiveness of an SEO campaign, but really empowering you to get the most holistic understanding of how efficient your media campaigns are overall. All righty. Section 4 is key strategies to boost revenue through SEO. The first one is you really want to optimize for conversions, not just clicks. And there's really 2 ways we do that. One's a little more micro, one's a little more macro. On a micro level, we talk about the effective CTA placement and language within our certain landing pages specifically. For example, if you look at the top left image, this is a screenshot, excuse me, of one of our latest model landing pages for an electrified GV70. It's a 2025 Genesis. Once the user immediately lands on this model landing page, they have the ability to convert into a number of CTA options off the bat. Things like view inventory, get a quote, value your trade, get pre-approved. as you scroll through our model landing pages, we then surface these CTAs in a number of different ways. Our model landing pages on average have anywhere from 15 to 20 different CTAs for the user to jump off and continue their journey at any point during that experience or during that session within a page itself. Another great example is some overhaul we did to a Subaru service center page in Las Vegas specifically, where traditionally your service pages aren't oftenly thought of for optimization opportunities. But what we found was a significantly high exit rate upon the start of our campaign on their service center page. What we were able to do was not only start them once they landed on the page with something, an offer you can see there, getting 10% off accessories, trying to ensure them, hey, maybe they didn't land on service, maybe they were looking for parts. We can give them, an offer right off the bat, but you can see the option to go in to schedule your service immediately or call us, but even more granularly, we highlight 4 areas that you can click into specifically that are going to be their most service categories at the dealership. Things like brake repairs, oil changes, tires, and battery replacement. So instead of landing on your typical static service page where you got to scroll through all these things, it's the most bland language possible, it's not engaging. Bam, you hit this short form service page that then you can click into a number of different options that then silo you into more specific content based on the service you're looking for. So that's just an idea of what we can do, just one example, 2 examples of CTA placement. The second one here is focuses more on content design. And this is one of my favorite instances we've had over the last year. We wrote an article for a Hyundai dealership that highlighted how to change the key fob in a Hyundai. And what we saw over time was this article became the preeminent resource for every Hyundai person in the United States looking to receive information on replacing their Hyundai key fob. Just to give you an example, currently their homepage receives about 5,000 sessions a month. As most of you understand, the homepage is going to be your most trafficked page on your website. This page receives 10,000 sessions a month for them. It's far more visible than anything else on their website. But what we found was this article was landing people from all over the country, and the exit rate on it was 92%, meaning they were landing on the page and immediately 92% of users weren't navigating anywhere else on the site. They were just simply either reading the article or bouncing from the article immediately. So what we did was we kind of brought this to the dealership and brainstormed a little bit about some opportunities here. And they said that they sit on an enormous amount of unprogrammed key fobs. And they buy them from the vendor rate directly from Hyundai itself. So they're sitting on an enormous amount of unprogrammed key fobs at a very effective purchase price. And what we were able to do was essentially build out a program where they would then program Hyundai keys and drop ship them to users across the country at a much more advantageous price than if you were to go to a dealership specifically. I think we netted out at about $150 for a key fob that they would drop ship it and program it to users anywhere in the country, where if those users were to go into their local Hyundai dealership, it would cost them about $230. So just to zoom back out again, we had this very rudimentary blog post that was kicking butt from a traffic perspective, but wasn't doing anything to move the needle from a revenue standpoint or an engagement and conversion standpoint. So we took all that content, revamped the design, engaged with a number of CTAs, and last month, this dealership sold 100 key fobs just off their dropship program because of an effective blog post that we built. Is it an enormous amount of movement selling new cars? No. But is it a way that you can get creative with content design to make sure that everything we're producing from an SEO perspective is going to be effective for you? Absolutely. So that's always a fun example I love talking about there as well. The other thing we really like to focus on are targeting high intent keywords. When I say high intent keywords, those are going to be search terms that indicate a user's intention to perform a specific action. These can be things that include buy now, service now, model comparisons, or what we really love to hone in on are year, make, model, and target city keywords, such as Acura MDX Miami. And while it is important to target keywords at every point of the funnel, and I'll get into that on the next slide here, ensuring that your high intent keywords are targeted appropriately and positioned appropriately still remain the best opportunity to drive shopping traffic to your website. To the right is an example of our 2025 Subaru Outback page in Las Vegas. We have it optimized for 2025 Subaru Outback Las Vegas. So you can see that's year, make, model, target city. Our dealership is ranking #1 and #2 for those keywords. And more importantly, you can see who it's ranking above as well. Centennial Subaru is going to be a direct competitor of theirs, but also, a third-party provider in Auto Trade, it's ranking above them as well. So the quality of our content and the targeting of our high intent keywords allow you to not only rank effectively for certain keywords, but we make sure that they are competitive keywords as well. This keyword specifically is going after by not only your direct competitor, but also your online and online third-party shopping tool as well. So just a little dip into high intent keywords as well. And then lastly, we really want to leverage content for every stage of the funnel. When I talk about the funnel, I'm really breaking into 3 different areas. It's broken into 7 areas, 5 areas with other people, but really 3 areas remain consistent. That's going to be awareness, consideration, and decision. And they're all places that we can optimize the content and the user experience to ensure it's effective and moving people into the next stage of the funnel. So for things like awareness, that's going to be blog posts and guides. We'll produce on a monthly basis more general automotive information relative to the OEM models, tech, or the locality that you're performing in or operating in. For example, we have 2 articles there we produced on the Lincoln Corsair interior, but also Palisade tech features. Some opportunities of the consideration part of the funnel, how content can be targeted there. At a high level, that's comparison content, that's case studies content, but our comparison content really does a fantastic job, not only from a general perspective, but also when we focus on a locality. As you can imagine, vehicle shoppers in the United States are some of the most comparative shoppers you can possibly imagine, not only from a model perspective, but also from a dealership perspective. So these always perform particularly well, and we always ensure that they are linked effectively to move users directly into an inventory or an SRP experience directly from some of these comparison pieces. And then lastly, we have the decision part of the funnel. That's going to be testimonials and product pages. I have a couple examples here. Is an SRP page from a Subaru dealership where there are a lot of opportunities to optimize something like an SRP, whether it be with the header specifically, how we're targeting keywords there, the way that the URLs are structured as well. When we get into the VDP pages, just the content design there, I think more often than not, you'll see an enormous amount of CTAs that are unbelievably confusing to users once they actually get to a VDP page. Get your credit score, start a DR tool, continue your shopping inventory, start the buying process. We really want to ensure that not only the content is great on those pages, but the user journey is very simplified so they know very clearly where they're going to go next. And then when we talk about something like testimonials, that's where your GBP really comes into play for 2 different reasons. Excuse me. The first one being that once users are doing their comparative shopping, they're going to be looking at your reviews. And A, they want to see hopefully you're getting good reviews, but B, that you're responsive to the customers as well. It gives an extra degree of validity. And not only are they trying to provide a service, but they're trying to listen to feedback as well. But probably more selfishly from an SEO perspective, your GBP is an enormous point of entry for a lot of users that are ultimately going to get to your website. So trying to optimize that GBP to be as visible as possible is incredibly important. And there are ways that you can, add your descriptors, link some of your other services within your GBP, such as your parts or service page, but ultimately populating it with with posts, ensuring your inventory is fed through, and right here, responding to customers, send all strong signals to Google that, hey, they didn't just create this GBP and set it up and leave it there. No, they're actively trying to make it the best window into their dealership as possible, and they're trying to do their best to communicate with existing and potential customers as they can here. So decision part of the journey, that testimonial and product pages are going to be the most important because it's going to be the final point where users are raising their hand, submitting a form, giving you their information to continue the buying process. First one I'll start is a Hyundai dealership. Our 3-pronged strategy here was a full blog build out. This website had no existing blog before our program began. And it's a great way, again, if we think about a couple slides ago, to really feed that awareness part of the funnel. The second was we updated their SRP and VDP pages to be more effective, more targeted, and better structured from a technical perspective. And then lastly, we gave them a service-related page overhaul, very similar to some of the examples I showed on that Subaru example on the prior slide. But when you look at the effectiveness of that campaign, it began in the first half of 24. And by the second half of 24, the leads really began to pile in here. What we're looking at is 6 months, so it's going to be July through December of 2024. Just from a form submission and a click to call perspective, we had 508 form submissions and over 1,000 click to calls, generating 1,536 leads over 6 months. Two things to point out there. It was a 52% increase in leads compared to the first half of the year, and they're averaging 256 leads a month. I won't get into the details of what that looks like on a cost per lead perspective, but if you begin to be looking at, some of the levels of service we offer, whether it be 1,500, 2,500, or 3,500, I'll let you do the math on 256 a month in terms of leads, and you can really see what that number looks like from a cost per lead perspective. So this was a great example. I think we mentioned on the bottom right here of it was not a one size fits all SEO plan. Again, we evaluated the dealership and found opportunity based on what they didn't have or what they had but needed optimizing. And we put a pretty killer plan together that resulted in an enormous amount of leads in the second half of 2024. And then secondly, we have a Subaru dealership. With them, we had an extensive model landing page build out. These guys picked up our top package, our $3,500 a month package, which comes with 10 model landing pages. They had no way to meet users that were looking for more extensive model specific content on their website already. So it started with an extensive model landing page build out. Secondly, we had an updated strategy on the holistic on-site buyer journey. Really, we saw a lot of gaps when users got to specific related content about where they go from there. Again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things we really do focus on is removing as much thought from the buyer journey as we can that falls upon the user. And we found that this dealership was giving them a lot of opportunities to think, unfortunately. So we tried to close that gap from a journey perspective. And we found them missing a lot of that mid-funnel locality focused content as they were in a pretty dense area in terms of other competitors, but also other manufacturers in their area as well. So there was a content strategy put in place that really was mid-funnel focused and very local focused as well. So them in the second half of 2024 as well did another fantastic job here. Over 1,100 leads generated in those 6 month, 1141 to be exact. 501 form submissions, 184 chat form submissions, and then 456 click to call specifically. That averages out at about 190 leads per month. And this dealership was and continues to be, this dealership, SEO was and continues to be the top source of website conversions compared to other channels. So again, over 6 months, 190 leads a month on average is just fantastic. It's giving you a great opportunity to give your sales team runway and really test them and ensure that your close rate's effective and you're converting on the leads that are ultimately being delivered to the dealership. And I think that was it for not only some case studies, but for our presentation on revenue-based SEO at large. It seems like I have a couple different questions in the chat. I'm just going to take a sip of water and I'll address some of those in real time. The first one is what is considered quality content? Quality content, or I should say a quality content program in our area is really focused on two different areas. It's unique content and the consistent output of that content. I mentioned this earlier, far often than not, you'll have a bolt-on SEO service, and this is usually the website vendors are the biggest perpetrators of this, but they will just produce the most generic model or general content and duplicate that across any other dealership that signed up for SEO with them. And A, it's not giving them any value, but B, it's actually putting them in a position where it could hurt them because it's not unique in any sense. So Google's not reading your website and saying, hey, I found some great content on this website I haven't been able to find anywhere else. But B, this page and this content reads a lot like a lot of other places I've seen it already. Am I trying to be gamed here? And is this really something I want to reward and generate to users if it's something they can find everywhere else? So when we talk about quality content, uniqueness reigns supreme. Nothing we ever write or produce you'll ever be able to find on any other website, let alone any other client website on the internet. But B, we really focus on the consistent output of that. A, it keeps our content fresh, light, and there's always something new for users to engage with. But B, it sends a very strong signal to the search engines that, hey, these guys didn't just throw up a website and they're hopeful that users are going to continue to come, time immemorial, where, hey, these guys are, not only have produced a great website, but they're constantly putting out new and relevant, unique information that is serving, customers X, Y, and Z. And oftentimes, that's a major contributor to the algorithm and more often will be rewarded with higher visibility there. So taking a step back again, when we talk about quality of content, we're talking about the consistent output of unique content. That's how I would encapsulate that. Another question, do you work with all brands? Yes, we work with new car dealers, both domestic and abroad. As I mentioned earlier, we've done it across 15 OEMs. The other thing mentioned there that I did uh, something I'll repeat that I mentioned earlier was regardless of if you're a single point dealer in a very small population area selling 50 cars a month, or if you're from a major dealership group selling 500 cars a month in a major market, we're able to tailor a strategy, and we've done so effectively regardless of any of those variables I just mentioned. And even more so there, I encourage you to reach out and, ask for some case studies, ask for some proof of concept for a client that would be comparable to you in terms of a market, an OEM, and a sales volume perspective. So yes, we work with all brands, but more importantly, we work with all dealership sizes and all types of localities as well. How long does it take your product program to get up and running? It almost immediately you will begin getting a blog population probably within the first week of once our program starts. Two other facets of our content delivery portion are our model landing pages and our city pages. City pages are more, again, mid-funnel locality focused opportunities to convert users looking generally for a specific dealership, a branded dealership. But overall, our content, all of it is up and running within 3 to 4 weeks of our service beginning. In tandem with that, there's another question here: when will I start receiving reports? So that content will be up in 3 to 4 weeks, and the monthly reports will start being provided after month one, where yes, the data is important to begin getting our arms around it after month one. We probably won't look to make any meaningful adjustments on our strategy until month 3 or 4 if we don't see any progress. But it takes us about 3 to 4 weeks to get all our content. That's going to be new content designed, written, programmed, launched through compliance, and then launched to the website. And then B, the reporting setup. And within that as well is the build out of a custom Google Looker Studio report, as well as a bunch of the conversion testing and monitoring that I went through on some of the earlier slides here. In terms of another question here, where can I find your case studies? I would encourage everyone here to visit a3brands.com. Not only within there, you can see the different packages that we offer, some examples of current content that's live, testimonials from great GMs, but you can also see some fleshed out case studies, some really, really cool success stories that I did not mention in this program that can help you get an understanding of the success of our program. And then lastly, another question here: how can I move forward with your company? A3brands.com, you'll see a CTA on there to schedule a strategy session. We'll carve out some time, get an understanding of what your pain points are, what you need, and put together a great process, present that back to you, and see if it's something that is worth pursuing on your end. Looking here, I think that's all the questions we have for today. I want to thank everyone for your time. This has been awesome. I think this is a really cool and niche approach we've taken to SEO. We're going to follow up here with a recording of this presentation. We're going to put it out across our social channels as well as YouTube as well, and also an opportunity for again you to set up a strategy session if you think there's opportunity there to be effective with your dealership. So thank you again. Again, I'm Ryan Boyle from A3 Brands. This was revenue focused SEO, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you.